You paid for it, you clicked buy, so why is it gone? That's the question at the heart of a lawsuit filed against Amazon, where a Prime Video customer discovered that purchasing a movie didn't mean owning it. According to Amazon's own legal defense, what you're really buying is a license, a temporary permission slip, and if that license expires, if Amazon loses the rights to distribute the film, you lose access. No refund, no warning, and no recourse. This isn't just about one platform, it's about the entire digital ecosystem. Fandango at Home, formerly known as Vudu, operates the same way. So does Google Play, so does Apple TV. If you think this is limited to movies and TV shows, think again. Video games, music, even books. Every digital storefront is built on the same fragile foundation: licensing, not ownership. A reasonable person would assume that buy means own, that when you hand over money, you're getting something permanent. But in the digital age, that assumption is wrong, and the consequences are staggering. Let's rewind for a bit. There was a time when ownership meant control. You bought a VHS tape, a DVD, a Blu-ray disc, and it was yours. You could lend it, resell it, rip it, archive it. You didn't need an internet connection or a corporate server to access it. You didn't worry about it disappearing overnight because someone in a boardroom decided it was no longer profitable. Today, that permanence is gone, and the cracks in the digital revolution are starting to show. Take Rockstar Games. In 2021, they released Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy, the Definitive Edition. It was supposed to be a celebration of three iconic games: GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. But fans quickly noticed something missing: songs. Tracks that defined the atmosphere of those games were stripped out due to expired music licenses. And if you thought you could just go back and buy the original versions on Steam, tough luck. Rockstar removed them from sale. The only way to play the originals with their full soundtracks is through piracy. And that's not an isolated case. Streaming services have begun purging content at an alarming rate. HBO Max removed 36 titles in 2022, including beloved shows like Infinity Train and Final Space. Disney Plus followed suit, axing series like Willow, Dollface, and Big Shot. These weren't flops per se, they had fan bases, they had cultural value, but they were erased, some for tax write-offs, others for licensing reasons, and once they're gone, they're gone. No physical release, no digital fallback, no legal way to watch them. Unless, of course, you pirate them. Let's talk about Sony. In 2023, they announced that hundreds of Discovery shows would be removed from users' PlayStation libraries. Mythbusters, Dual Survival, Deadliest Catch, all gone by December 31st of that year. And this wasn't just a licensing issue. These were shows people had paid for, shows that were supposed to be part of their permanent collection. Sony did something similar in Germany and Austria, removing Studio Canal titles like Paddington, The Hunger Games, and John Wick back in 2022. Again, no refunds, no alternatives. But you know who didn't lose access? The pirates. The people who downloaded those shows, ripped those DVDs, archived those files, they still have them. They're not beholden to corporate whims or licensing collapses. They didn't trust the cloud, they trusted themselves. And here's where things get complicated. Internet piracy didn't start as a moral crusade. ROM sites, torrent trackers, file sharing hubs, they were born out of convenience and rebellion. People didn't want to pay $20 for a CD to hear Baby One More Time. They didn't want to shell out $50 for a PS1 game when they could just burn a copy. Cam rips existed because movie tickets were expensive and the films weren't always worth the cost of admission. Piracy was about access, about getting what you wanted without paying for it. But over time, something strange happened. These sites, these communities, became accidental archivists. They preserved games whose developers went bankrupt. They saved shows that were never released on DVD. They kept alive versions of media that were altered, censored, or erased. Let me give you some personal examples. I found Disney's House of Mouse through piracy, rips from Toon Disney. That's the best you can get, because most of the show was never released to DVD, let alone streaming, outside of the direct-to-video direct-to-video movies from House of Mouse, but that was only 2 of them. Muppets Tonight, same story, old Disney Channel rips. Destroy, Build, Destroy, a show from Cartoon Network's Real Block that I genuinely liked. Warner Brothers won't re-release it. Piracy is the only option. And it's not just obscure titles. When shows like Charmed or One Tree Hill hit streaming, they had to change the music due to licensing issues. If you want the original broadcast versions, you need the old DVD releases, or you need to find a piracy site with DVD or TiVo rips. Even award-winning films aren't safe. Ron Howard's Cocoon, which won Academy Awards, has never been re-released beyond DVD. The sequel? Easy to find. The original? Good luck. The DVD is long out of print. So what happens when the only way to experience a piece of media as it was originally released is through piracy? You get a moral shift. Suddenly, piracy isn't just theft. It's preservation, it's resistance, and it's cultural memory. And the platforms? They only have themselves to blame. They promised us convenience, instant access, infinite shelf space, but they gave us censorship, revocation, and impermanence. They punished legitimate customers while pirates thrived. They turned buy into borrow, and now people are fighting back, not with lawsuits, but with torrent clients. And let's talk about DRM. Why don't these platforms let you download your purchases for offline viewing? Why do you have to be constantly connected to the internet to watch something that you paid for? Some platforms do allow downloads, but the files are wrapped in DRM that checks in every few days to verify your license. If you're offline too long, the file locks. You're cut off. You didn't buy it, you borrowed it. It's the same logic that plagued Diablo 3 when it launched on PC. Blizzard implemented always online DRM that checked the validity of your copy every 5 minutes, even in single player mode, even if you weren't using online features. If your connection dropped for whatever reason, the game froze, you were booted to the menu, progress lost, all because the system didn't trust you. And it wasn't just Blizzard, mind you, this was not an isolated case. EA and Ubisoft followed the same logic with SimCity 2013 and Watch Dogs on PC. Both games required proprietary launchers, EA's Origin and Ubisoft's Uplay respectively, and both demanded CD key verifications to prove you were a legitimate customer. But here's the kicker. The servers responsible for verifying those keys were unstable. On launch day, thousands of paying players couldn't access the games they bought because EA and Ubisoft couldn't keep their DRM infrastructure online. And SimCity 2013 took it even further. Like Diablo 3, it enforced always online DRM even for single player mode. Your cities weren't saved locally. They were stored in the cloud. So if the servers ever went down, your progress vanished. If EA pulled the plug, your creations were gone. Permanently. Meanwhile, pirates who cracked the DRM played SimCity and Watch Dogs on day one with no issues. No server errors, no CD key failures, no cloud saves, just the game. So again, who's being punished? The paying customer jumps through hoops, gets locked out, and loses progress. The pirate gets a seamless experience. And that's the core issue. These companies don't trust you. They treat you like a potential thief. They build systems that punish you for buying their products. Meanwhile, pirates bypass the DRM entirely. They download the file once and it's theirs. No check-ins, no revocations, no disappearing libraries. So who's really being respected? The pirate gets a clean file. The buyer gets surveillance software. In 2005, Sony BMG shipped over 22 million music CDs with hidden software, malware really, that secretly installed itself on users' computers. The goal? To monitor listening habits and enforce DRM. But the execution was catastrophic. The rootkit buried itself deep in the system, making it nearly impossible to detect or remove. Worse, it created security vulnerabilities that hackers could exploit. And it didn't stop there. If the software detected MP3 files it believed were downloaded from LimeWire, BearShare, or Kazaa, even if they weren't, it would delete them. No warning, no appeal. If you mislabeled your own ripped copy of Michael Jackson's Dangerous album, too bad. Sony decided you were a pirate and your files were erased. Legitimate customers, people who bought CDs like the Great American Songbook series, specifically Billie Holiday, Frank Sinatra, and Louis Armstrong, or Something to Be Proud of, the best of 1999 and 2005, that was Montgomery Gentry's greatest hits album, you got infected with malware. All because they trusted the product, all because they paid. Sony eventually released a patch, but even that exposed users to further security risks. Suddenly, pirating music carried the same danger as buying it, because now even the official CDs came with spyware. So again, who's really being respected? The pirate gets a clean file. The buyer gets punished. And as more people realize this, the moral calculus shifts. They start to see piracy not as theft, but as freedom, as reliability, as respect. Now let me be clear. I'm not advocating for piracy, and because legally I can't, but I understand why it's happening. I understand why people are fed up, why they're tired of being told they own something only to watch it disappear. Because if buying isn't owning, then pirating isn't stealing. Let's talk about it. Have you lost access to something you paid for? Do you still collect physical media? Have you found a beloved show or game through piracy because there was no other way? Drop your stories in the comments. The digital revolution didn't fail because the technology wasn't good enough. It failed because it forgot the most important part of ownership: trust. We trusted these platforms to preserve our purchases, to honor our transactions, to respect our collections, and they failed. Now, the archivists wear hoodies, the librarians run torrent sites, the preservationists are the pirates. And maybe that's the most ironic twist of all. The people who were once accused of destroying media are now the ones saving it. Thanks for listening. And if you made it this far into the video, then drop this code word in the comments.
Diplomatic community.
It's just been revoked.